I mean, Arsenal were unable to, walk past his team, Everton, but Arsenal have a chance again. They did one over Palace in the AFL, as I indicated earlier. Now in the Premier League, Oliver Glasner is already a worried man, isn't he?
Well, he hasn't particularly had a good start to life. I mean, this season. So clearly, there are issues. At some point, I had marked him down as one of the coaches to be sacked because given how he was able to come in January, steer the affairs for the club, they going on a run and having a very good season, very good end to the season. Many expected that having pre-season he would, come in and then be able to, get the team playing as they were playing. Unfortunately, it hasn't gone according to plan. It took a very long time for them to even win their first game. But it looks as if in the last 3 games or so, they seem to be turning the corner. They went last week away to beat Brighton at home, at the Amex. And that was a very significant win for them. And clearly, they were able to, find their way around all of these situations and all of that. So now, Arsenal, on the other hand, title contenders, as we've expected, seem to be on a decline of a sort. I mean, if you compare their point accumulation over the last 3 seasons, this season has been the lowest. Ordinarily, you would have expected that a team that is contending for the league, now your closest contender in the last 2 seasons, which has been Man City, are not playing well.
So automatically you should be up there.
You should be up there competing. This time around, there seemed to have been a drop for Arsenal, and they seem not to be able to get themselves into the next gear. And if you're not careful, it's looking as if Arteta is gradually morphing into the latter days of Arsene Wenger, where all that they needed to do was to qualify for the Champions League. I mean, there is no way you compete for the league twice against Pep Guardiola, have an opportunity to have a go again, and then it becomes very difficult for you. It's quite disappointing. I mean, looking at the games that they've had to drawing at home to Everton is a no-no if you want to win the Premier League. These are games you should be winning. Against Fulham, another game you should be winning. You go in there, you draw. What message are you sending? Now, the fans begin to question exactly what this whole project is all about, because it's been 5 years since you took over. They would expect something other than going for the big trophies, which has to do with the Premier League, which Arsenal haven't won in over 21 years. So there's still something really lacking with Arsenal. I mean, aside their over-reliance on set pieces, they are finding it very difficult to break teams down, especially teams that are sitting in those deep blocks. They found another outlet in the set pieces, which is giving them goals. If the goals doesn't come through set pieces, it becomes very difficult for them to get goals. And it's one thing that Arteta's Arsenal would need to start. They seem to have lost that thing. I mean, in 2 seasons ago, they were very high flying. I mean, very flamboyant, passing teams around and scoring from all angles. But they seem to have stifled that creativity in the team. I don't know what is happening. People used to say that because Odegaard wasn't present, it became a very difficult moment and all of that. Odegaard is now present, and they seem not to be having that creative spark to be able to, create those goals. It's a big challenge for us now.
Interesting. Yeah, in 1 minute, I want you to, explain to me whether you feel there is an over-reliance. He spoke about over-reliance on Saka as well to produce the goals for Arsenal.
Yes, there is an over-reliance on Bukayo Saka because they've been forced to. Ideally, they wouldn't necessarily want to over-rely on Bukayo Saka. They would want to have a star man in, let's say, Bukayo Saka, be the star, but have other co-stars also around you.
An Odegaard, maybe a party.
Yes, those guys. And you mentioned one, Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus, Leandro Trossard.
Absolutely.
Those guys. Because you don't have a recognized striker, you play your system in a different way. You get your goals by spreading it around your front three, with some even getting to the one who operates immediately behind your front three. And that, in most cases, is Martin Odegaard. In some cases, it's Kai Havertz. All of these guys are scoring, but this time around, they aren't scoring as they did last season or a couple of seasons ago. And that's the biggest problem right now. They are overly reliant on Bukayo Saka for goals, they are overly relying on Martin Odegaard for creativity, and unfortunately, he got injured at the worst time in the season, and they ended up dropping points, and it really cost them, and that's why they find themselves where they are. I think it's just down to initially a mix of issues.
Okay.
So first things first, first things first, the player indiscipline cost them with the red cards and all that. They ended up drawing games and dropping points. Then you also had the manager. I think maybe it's PTSD in the sense that when he got his team to be fluid, open up and all, it cost him the championship. And so he's more or less adopting a kind of a Mourinho mentality where it is defense that is going to help me get to win that championship, because I know that by relying on a guy like Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard, they can get me enough goals to get within reach of winning the title. Then I can rely on my defense to get me over that particular line and win it. And so it's just a mix of
all of these
issues.
factors. All right, great.